Thank you all for watching and attending this talk. I'm Karthik Bhat, and I'll be co-presenting our work titled Information Backward but Sex Forward, Navigating Masculinity Towards Intimate Well-Being and Heterosexual Relationships with Anupriya, Tuli, and Azra Ismail. This work was advised by Dr. Pushpendra Singh and Dr. Neha Kumar. A quick content warning to begin with. In this presentation and in our paper, we will use some explicit terminology to discuss sexual health and well-being. We'll use this language to describe our approach to the study and some of our findings and takeaways from the study. Please take note if any of these topics make you uncomfortable. So research at CHI and related venues has seen an increasing focus on reproductive health and intimate well-being from a women's health perspective, where researchers have highlighted women's experiences with technologies across life transitions, focusing on menstrual health, fertility care, and maternal health. These studies have established the role of sociocultural factors and the variety of stakeholders in shaping women's practices around their health and well-being. Essentially, they have highlighted the need for an ecological perspective in this domain and brought to light how important it is for men to play a supportive role in matters concerning sexual, reproductive, and maternal and child health. Recent studies in HCI have also highlighted men's limited participation in discourses around reproductive health across life transitions as a potential avenue for future research. In this research, we align ourselves with these emerging ecological perspectives on gender health and well-being in HCI. We question how technology design could support men's sexual health literacies and their intimate relationships. So we asked, how do cisgender men seeking heterosexual relationships acquire sexual health literacies? And how might technologies play a role in supporting men's information seeking and sharing behaviors around sexual health and well-being? With the hope that this could eventually target their participation as supportive partners and allies in intimate relationships. To answer this question, we conducted a survey and focus group-based study over a period of a little over a year. Our survey targeted cisgender men of Indian origin who were over 21 years of age and had been in or were seeking heterosexual relationships. We ran the survey for several months, got over 250 hits, and determined 106 of them to be valid responses. Alongside the survey, we conducted 5 remote focus groups with 19 participants. And we used 4 media probes chosen to address different aspects of sexual health, literacy, and intimate well-being.
We took inspiration from cultural probes and used 4 short clips from Indian media addressing the topic of men's fertility and reproductive health as probes for our focus group sessions. The first clip was about popular Ask the Sexpert newspaper column by Dr. Mahendra Vatsa, which prompted a discussion around various sources of information on men's sexual health. In the next video, a character from the powerful mafia family was trying to talk about his own erectile dysfunction to a doctor using euphemisms, and the doctor referring to an erection by raising his finger. This clip helped us unpack the use of euphemistic language and how men's fertility might be linked to the notion of masculinity. In the next clip, the person on the left is a personification of the other man's penis who accuses the man of being ashamed of him. The video depicted concerns with erectile dysfunction, sexual performance, masturbation, and penis length. This probe elicited reflections about participants' association with and expectations from their bodies. Finally, video 4 presented a conversation between a married couple where the husband is taken aback when the wife brings up her sexual desires and needs for pleasure indirectly by referring to pornography. Here, we gauge culturally situated gender roles and expectations in intimate heterosexual relationships. Overall, situated in the Indian cultural context, these clips helped us to offer a vocabulary to approach a conversational taboo topic while serving as icebreakers. The sensitivity around the subject meant that the recruitment for focus group was long and was challenging. We relied on our networks after having had limited success with public fora. This means that it is very likely that our recruitment efforts were more successful in reaching out those closer to us, that is, predominantly upper caste and middle income backgrounds. We conducted a session as and when we had 4 responses expressing a willingness to participate. We prioritize our participants' comfort in sharing their experiences, ensuring that they could draw boundaries in terms of what they would like to share with the group and the researchers. We will now briefly present our findings. Our participants repeatedly highlighted how challenging it was for them to talk about intimate and reproductive health on account of restrictive cultural taboos around sex. The act of sex is considered personal and not talked about beyond the context of procreation, as visible in this particular quote by Rohit, where he elaborated that there is this response like, oh no, don't talk about sex, like, no, 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 to avoid spotlight that is put on sex as an aspiration. Here, the dominant reaction is just shut up, don't talk about it, go study, focus on your homework. Consequently, the onus remains on men to construct sexual literacies by themselves, and they resort to limited spaces available to them, like the Ask the Sexpert newspaper column and online spaces.
We found that this taboo was also rooted in expectations around masculinity, and this shaped what and how our participants were learning about sexual health and what they did or did not learn in this process. And in particular, for many of our participants, one kind of concern that they experienced, especially around adolescence, was what was normal in terms of sexual health experiences. And in particular, they shared how harmful stereotypes around penis size and performance were propagated and could result in insecurities. One particular participant, Bhanu, reflected also on how masculinity could impact potentially how people had attitudes towards sexual health. So in this video with the Mafia Don, Bhanu reflects that he's talking from a very like, oh, if I tell him that it is my problem, I may not be as dangerous as I am right now. You know, like his ability to be aggressive, to be a man, is related to his ability to perform. So we saw these kinds of associations, and this was an exaggerated situation which was used for comic relief, but such perceptions were also apparent in society and in media for our participants. And this resulted in men being particularly hesitant in talking to other men about whether any personal or even generic sexual health questions. And many of these conversations happened later in life, so in adulthood, either with a female friend or with a partner. But by then, there was also the sense among our participants that this is something that they should know, that this is information they should be armed with while entering a relationship. The focus group for our participants was often the first time that they had talked to other men about this. And we found that humor played a really key role in these conversations, and in some extent helping break taboos, but it also propagated stereotypes in the process. So Raj, for instance, shared that there was this whole period of sex comedies that would come out, and they would not educate you in any way. Even the euphemisms are not that great, but they actually armed people with a way to talk about it without getting to the issue. And for many of our participants, this was also apparent in the conversations in the focus group. So they struggled to have the language to talk about sexual health, or there were hesitations and pauses and awkward bouts of laughter. And there was clearly a need for more spaces where they felt comfortable and could grow into being able to talk about such topics. So moving forward, what does this mean for HCI research and practice, right? So first, we just want to emphasize just how taboo sexual health was in this context. Recruiting participants was different. Every probe and prompt had to be selected very carefully. But our data also points to the need for such conversations to happen, and especially to have these collective learning settings where men could engage with each other, maybe even engage with other stakeholders to talk about sexual health. And humor could be used very carefully to break the ice, but also being very cognizant of the stereotypes it could propagate in the process. And we also see that men's perceptions around sexual health could shape their experience with their partner, whether it was discomfort or being able to manage expectations when they enter a relationship for the first time. And HCI has started to take an ecological perspective, and we think there's really a need to grow that space and really think about men's role in relationships, especially given that in many settings, the decision-making and financial power may be in the hands of men in a disproportionate way. So we invite you to read our paper, which has more suggestions and more findings on this topic. And with that, we end our presentation. Thank you so much for your time.